Good afternoon. Welcome to today's edition of the Coal Scene. I'm Chris Hamilton with the West Virginia Coal Association, and I'll be your host over the next half hour. There's been a lot of discussion recently about expanding markets for West Virginia coal. And one of the first things that's said or that's entered into those conversations is coal to liquid plants. That's what we're going to be talking about today, some of the technology involved, the feasibility, and how that will make West Virginia coal much stronger. It'll increase our reliance and consumption on West Virginia coal, as opposed to a coal-fired power plant located in some other state or foreign markets for that matter. That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I believe everybody that's involved with the industry has heard something about a coal to liquid facility or the process that's been around for a while. Joining me in the studio is Dr. Richard Wolf, who is one of the pioneers actually of coal to liquid application here within the coal fields of West Virginia and Virginia, formerly with the Department of Energy, has a lot of experience within this field as well as the mining industry, and we're just so pleased to have him on our program here today. Dr. Wolf, thanks so much for
Thank you very much.
taking time to join us here.
I appreciate it very much.
There's, every couple of years, it seems like when the price of gasoline goes up, it just paves the way, or, instantly people start saying, why aren't we making gasoline from coal?
Well, that's been my thrust. I grew up in Sophia, West Virginia. My father was a coal miner, and so I guess coal's in my blood. And I got my doctorate in engineering, so I have focused, even at the Department of Energy under Jimmy Carter, when we got this whole program started on energy independence. We have an opportunity to create new markets for coal besides just burning it to make power. We've always had competition in making electricity, but we're still importing almost 7 million barrels a day of oil. We don't need to be doing that. We've got our coal, we've got plenty of coal here in West Virginia and in all the coal states, and we've got the technology, it's proven, to make coal into gasoline and diesel fuel right here at home, and our citizens of West Virginia can be driving their vehicles on gasoline and diesel fuel made from coal. They don't have to even bring oil out of Tennessee or oil out of Texas.
I should point out, you indicated you were born and grew up in the Sophia area. You also attended West Virginia Tech for a year or two.
I did for 2 years, and then I got a scholarship to Virginia Tech from the Pocahontas Fuel Company in Bluefield, West Virginia. And so I then transferred to West Virginia Tech and chemical engineering. And I did my undergraduate thesis work on converting coal into gasoline back in 1961. But the Germans developed this technology, during the war. Mm-hmm. So, and after the war, the German scientists moved to South Africa because there was no oil in South Africa and there's plenty of coal. And they a program started and set up a company called Sasol. Mm-hmm. So now 80% of all the gasoline and diesel fuel in South Africa is made from coal, and it's been that way for 50 years.
50 years. China has even, they're looking at coal liquid plants right now.
Because
Not
they
much
don't have any
there.
oil either, and they want to be self-dependent. Mm-hmm. And we got to do the same thing here in the coal fields. If we want to bring the coal fields back, a good example, if we put in a 10,000 ton a day coal to gasoline diesel fuel plant, just off the Sasol technology, that's 3.8 million tons of coal a year, and that's going to create thousands of jobs and a new market for coal.
Well, and that one of the things that makes that so important here within West Virginia, we currently export a large percentage of the coal that we mine. on the order of magnitude of upwards of 65%. That coal is exported to practically every state east of the Mississippi to burn within their utility plants. And it's also exported, we have this high-grade metallurgical coal that's used to produce steel, and that's exported 30-some countries around the world. Now, when you're exporting a large percentage of your product, you're a little vulnerable. You're vulnerable to, public policy within those destinations.
That's right.
Political unrest, climate, all kinds of things. So it's long been said that somehow we need to find ways here in West Virginia to increase our consumption of the coal and the jobs that we have right here.
That's my feeling too. I think that we have the opportunity, certainly with the governor's support. Jim Justice is a coal man, and you also have President Trump. So that makes a real combination now that we can work between the state and federal governments to really create at least one plant which could use in the Kanawha Valley and along the Kanawha River from up at Alloway, West Virginia, down to Charleston. We have all this property on the river, and we even have one power plant. It's been shut down, the Kanawha Power Plant, which is a great site. I mean, we have some great sites and coal's available.
When you look at those sites, those are industrial sites. They have great road and rail access, river access.
That's right.
I mean, they're tailor-made for
This is an
a
opportunity.
coal to
Even
liquid.
the Bell plant owned by DuPont, that started in 1926. Well, basically, that was using coal to make gas, and then they made chemicals from it. So almost for 30 years, they used coal. They use the natural gas now, but that technology is almost established here in West Virginia as the first in the country to make coal into different chemicals and different fuels.
I would add also, when Governor, now U.S. Senator Joe Manchin was governor, during his earlier years, he was very much interested in this technology, and he talked about perhaps developing several around the state at these industrial sites, and even converting the state petroleum state transportation fleet of vehicles as users of this fuel.
Well, and Governor Jay Rockefeller, I've known both of them, and they've both been supportive of this. And but we can also now expand this to a big job producing opportunity for the coal mines as well as the manufacturing, and make our own gasoline, and our citizens of West Virginia can drive their cars on gasoline and diesel fuel made from coal.
Oh, I think they would quickly participate.
Well,
I know you have a video, and you also have a few slides that we're going to go through and talk. This is probably a good time to tee the video up and kind of set the stage for some other
well,
discussion.
I might just mention Jimmy Carter during his presidency. He put a lot of money into coal research, and this video that you're going to see is our plant. We had almost $8 million to get this pilot plant proven, and that's what you're going to see. And we made gasoline and even opened up a number of stations, and you'll see that, where we blended some of the coal liquids like 10%, like ethanol, to make it go further. But we can do it 100% with the technology now.
That's excellent.
The Coal Technology Corporation is a little over 3 months old, but already pumping out its new coal-powered gasoline.
Coming on the market with a 90 octane, which will really solve this problem of what octanes people should use between low octane and high octane. Our octane performs as well as the premium fuels.
Private and public research has been going on for about 10 years. A lot of lab work, testing which coal liquids could be combined in the best way, producing the most efficient gasoline. Coal is first vaporized. Those gases are then condensed into methanol and other liquid forms of coal. The liquids are blended together, refined, and heated again, then are combined with crude oil, about a 50-50 mixture. Developers say combining the best properties of both oil and coal into a fuel will help diminish the foreign dependence on a 100% crude oil gas market.
This will increase the use of coal throughout the coal regions of West Virginia and Virginia. And so by utilizing our coal in transportation markets, we can now begin to haul our coal using coal gasoline and coal diesel fuels.
The Coal Technology Corporation has put about $2.5 million into their refinery. This is their main storage area, and they plan to pump out about 50,000 gallons of this coal-powered gasoline each week. 3 gas stations started offering the new fuel last week in southwestern Virginia. Developers hope to open 10 to 12 additional stations in Virginia and West Virginia, depending on demand. They also plan to market a windshield washer and fuel injector cleaner made from coal in the next few weeks. In Bristol, Virginia, Chuck Strickler, News Center 6.
That's fascinating. I mean,
Well,
it really is.
Well, that's the beginning, and you can see that's that was 25 years ago in 1990. I was a little younger then, but I'm still after it. My hair's got a little grayer, but the technology's there. We got an opportunity now, and all we need to have is some support from the federal government to prevent the OPEC countries from cutting their prices back artificially. At $35 a barrel of crude oil, we can be economical with this new technology on converting coal into gasoline and diesel fuel. But you know, what really is, we need to be able to work through the state and federal. In fact, even Jimmy Carter, when he's president, established a synfuels tax break called Section 29. And it was a very significant part. And Robert Byrd's from my hometown in Sophia.
Right.
And I got to know him well all my life. And he was very supportive of that. So that's the sort of thing that the federal government can do. We don't need to, an industry then, if they're protected, they can invest, and they will invest. Because that's a good outlet for the coal, the railroads, Norfolk and Southern, CSX. They can haul their coal on diesel fuel made from coal. So it makes sense.
And you know, I tend to think that under the new presidential campaign administration, the federal administration between President Trump and his energy advisors and the U.S. Department of Energy today, I think they're looking for opportunities like this. You would think, and hopefully there will be federal dollars that become available to partner with states, to partner with universities to make this a reality this time around.
Well, I think so, and I definitely believe that from an environmental standpoint, I mean, you talk about clean energy. These are really clean energy plants. I mean, you're not really polluting, and you're capturing all the product because you're gasifying it. And you know, there's 2 things that's kind of interesting is that coal, anything that we have a fossil fuel, this is a fossil fuel. I mean, we're a carbon planet.
Yes.
So, you know, we're not kryptonite, not Superman's kryptonite. So we have CO2, and there's lots of debates about greenhouse gases, and that's controversial. But the power plants, fossil power plants, but you know, our automobiles and our cars also give off just as much CO2. You know, everything's been concentrated on shutting down the power plants, but our automobiles have. And when you're making these new gasoline and diesel fuels from coal, you're going to get a higher octane, you're going to get a cleaner burning fuel.
Cleaner burning, no question.
I mean, you're
about
going to have less CO2 as well. So we do have an opportunity to make some new markets for coal. And
You know, after several years of a depressed market and an erosion of our coal jobs and overall coal productivity, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but we've lost over the last half a decade, we've lost almost half of our coal jobs. We've lost half of our state's coal production. And we're seeing some increases right now. There's been some opportunities on the international market. We're using a little more power in this country than we were a couple years ago. So some of our miners that were furloughed a year ago are being called back today. People that live along railroads and truck, traffic areas or transportation are seeing coal trucks again. They're seeing barges. They're seeing coal trains go up and down the road, and all this is positive. The big question out there is, are we going to be able to sustain those improvements? And it's technology, and it's being creative, and putting in facilities like this that helps pave the way to sustain those jobs.
That's
going
right.
forward.
We can't be dependent completely on exporting our product.
No.
Now, coal's been used primarily for electricity and for steel making, coke. But introducing a coal to liquids or synfuels plant is a whole completely new market, and it reduces our dependency upon foreign oil. Now, I know we got plenty of oil and plenty of various other aspects, but basically, as our economic growth and the people grow, we're going to continue to use more gasoline and more power. So it's an opportunity for us to start. And we do not have, a real coal to gasoline plant like they do in South Africa and China. Eastman Chemical has had a plant in Kingsport, gasifying coal almost 3,000 tons a day into methanol, and then they make it into chemicals. But once you, and that's the plant, you see that.
I was going to say, we're going to go to some of your slides. There you are.
That's the Eastman Chemical plant, and they are using, and they've been operating for 25 years.
And it's in operation today. As we sit here right now, this plant's using coal.
And then here is in South Africa, the Sasol plant, it's producing 100,000 barrels a day of gasoline and diesel fuel right there in South Africa. Now listen, if they can do it there, we can do it here. And China, if you just look at that new plant that they're building right now, that is a multi-billion-dollar plant. And that's just one of several that they've got going. So now here is the plant I had in Virginia, Bristol, Virginia. It was a coal refinery. We were taking coal and liquids and refining them and making a coal-powered fuel. And we had the Department of Energy funding that helped that a lot. We cost-shared it, but that was really started under United Coal Company when I was with Jim McLaughlin and as Vice President of Research and Development.
Are there other slides? Do we have a couple other slides?
Well, there's the plant that there was a proposal we submitted to the Department of Energy in 1980, and that was a consortium with Norfolk and Southern, United Coal Company, and Hercules, which is a part of DuPont. And that was to make a coal to methanol to gasoline project. And then the oil prices dropped, and President Carter did not get reelected. Reagan did. And then when the prices dropped back down to $12 a barrel, nobody could be competitive. So
well, that's what we're seeing. I mean, that's kind of the routine that we've experienced here within West Virginia over the past 25 years. When the price of gasoline and oil
up to $100 a barrel
peaks and creeps upward, then all of a sudden the discussion for a coal to liquids plant emerges. And then as soon as those prices drop, it seems like the enthusiasm.
Well, what we need to have, and this is the part the federal government can play, is we need to put a tariff. I mean, if the oil prices drop below $35 a barrel, we can make this plant economical, $35 a barrel of crude oil. And right now, the day's price is $45 a barrel of crude oil. So, and it's going to go up. I can assure you, they have a Mideast problem. It's going to go up. So now's the time to start this thing before it becomes and we got some lead time. And President Trump and Governor Justice, I'm sure, can work together to make this thing happen.
Well, those guys have been known to work a little magic, so
well, I think so.
If we can get them partnering together on energy
There's
and coal
a picture
projects.
when I got the first clean coal conversion plant, started down in Virginia, and that was in 2009. And so we had Jim Justice was supportive. He got involved, and my partner, Jerry Wharton. And we got that plant started in 2011, got it built in 2011, been operational since then, making coal into coke, and a byproduct is coal gasoline. So But this is operating at.
Now, this is your company
Yes,
here,
yes.
Virginia
That's in
Carbonite.
Virginia Carbonite. It's in Norton, Virginia, and you can see the off-gas cleanup systems, and we meet all the environmental regulations, and now we got a clean briquetted product that I brought with me that you can see. But that's the coke that we've been selling to General Motors, and here is some of the. Just look at this. This is a new form for coal into a big briquette for the foundry industry, and now we're able to make that in a whole new technology. We've got patents on that sort of thing. So that's just an example of clean coal in a new market. But it's not going to be as big as making it into coal gasoline. That's
Right.
the big market.
Right.
That would use like 3.8 million tons of coal a year at one plant. So that's a big market.
And again, what that does is expands the state's consumption of one of its base fuels here.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we
it's-
need it. We got to have gasoline. We couldn't be here today if it wasn't for electricity. We couldn't be here if we didn't have gasoline to get here. So for the time being, that's our mode of transportation. It's going to be that mode for next 30 to 40 years probably, if not more. And so let's get these plants started now so that we can start to make coal into a new market cleanly.
You know, following and when President Carter, that you mentioned, was in office, Jay Rockefeller, Senator Rockefeller, was Governor Rockefeller then. He headed up the Coal Commission.
Right.
You know, they talked about these things. Arch Moore comes in office in the mid-'80s, and he talks about building in-state coal-fired power plants. A few years later, Governor Manchin comes in office, talks about coal to liquid plants.
Right.
All those things were intended and designed to increase the state's consumption, because we're going to continue to see, I think, states that will maintain their concern and interest over how much coal they use. So we can't. My point is that we might very well in the future lose some coal markets that we currently have in North Carolina or in one of the other eastern states, Georgia, where we ship coal. We ship coal to Florida,
Right.
and but to sustain our current level of production and jobs, we're just going to have to bite the bullet and put a little investment into the state consumption side.
Well, I certainly would like to see Governor Justice to set up a program, or at least a feasibility evaluation, and I'd be pleased to serve on it, to pull some companies together to see economically feasible where we should site this plant, how would we finance it. I mean, there's lots of tax incentives that it's available that we had before. There was a Synfuels tax break, and get companies like CSX and Norfolk Southern, who have lots of coal, get some coal companies involved, get some, maybe even DuPont, who knows the chemical business. You get some of that going, listen, we can make this happen. And I'd like to see it started with Governor Justice, and I'll be glad to serve on whatever commission he wants to put together and participate.
Well, I think he will be very eager to learn more about this and to see what he's able to pull together to make it happen.
Well, he understands coal, and he understands the benefits.
And
so.
it's good to note that he's had some involvement with this, several years ago.
Oh,
So he's
he
familiar
and
with
his son both are very smart, and so he understands the benefits. So it's a matter, I'm anxious to get this in front of him and talk about it.
Do we have more slides? I didn't know if there was anything else, on the in the rotation there or not.
But tomorrow, I think we're going to have a
We
little
are.
more detail.
We're going to have a coal forum meeting tomorrow, and you have graciously accepted our invitation to talk and make a presentation there, and I think that's excellent. That's part of what the coal forum's trying to do. Our association's always eager to work with institutions and the private sector that wants to explore these the feasibility of these type of projects. It seems like all the focus of your federal grants, energy grants, and energy agenda has been on carbon sequestration. How are we going to, sequester and control the emissions?
Well, but with CO2, I mean, we've got the sulfur under control, we've got the mercury under control. CO2 is going to be a continuum.